Alright, everyone act surprised. Go. Okay. Ascended Laegjarn. Do this.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's, well, to no one's surprise, is Path of Radiance Heroes plus Ascended Laegjarn. So, yeah, no surprise here, honestly. Gonna do the same old reaction, impressions, and some notes and what I feel like every unit here potentially bring to the game or not bring to the game, depending on how boring they are. I do think we have Ascended Laegjarn stats in this, so I will likely be doing a should you pull video later on. I'll produce it right after this video and give you guys my insight on her builds, plus where I feel she can best be used. So yeah, that's gonna be today's. So let's jump straight into it. Before we do, smash the like button and sub if you haven't already. Seriously, big help to outreach of the channel and for me to keep producing content. If there is something that's F2P, it's smashing the like button. Let's go. So first up is Volke.
Tell the barkeep you've need of a fireman.
Red Dagger Infantry. Considering how I felt like he's a bit more popular from his game, it took him this long to get in. It's kind of a surprise, but hey. So his dagger is called the Fireman's Hook. An interesting name for sure. It's a slaying weapon if initiating or not adjacent to anyone, aka solo. He gets 5 to all stats, and he has that anti-guard effect. This is becoming more and more common. It's a point where it's kind of worrisome because guard is a very powerful skill, and having anti-guard is a little bit odd. Don't know how to feel about that yet, but hey. So he has impact, no follow-up, and times pulse, good set. He has a brand new special called Lethality. Lethality is basically the dagger version of Deadeye. I'm 99% sure that this is going to be inheritable by all daggers. It's basically an assassin type of skill. It's been in many games among dagger assassin type units. So definitely assuming that this is going to be dagger inheritable. I doubt it'll be exclusive to him. It wouldn't really make him stand out too much, but it makes sense why he has like an anti-guard effect to make him stand out. The problem with this special though is that I think it's too high on the special like charge. So it acts like a better Luna, meaning it's 75% as opposed to 50, and it has damage piercing. So it's like Deadeye, but instead of doubling up your damage, so it's like Deadeye with instead of Glimmer, the Glimmer enhanced effect, it's like Luna, but with damage reduction piercing. Now that is good, but my problem with that is it competes with other 4-charge specials, such as AoEs, specifically AoEs. Now I feel like most characters would probably be okay or do just as well with an AoE special as they would with Lethality. You think of like all the PvE or AoE builds, they all run those 4-charge specials with blazing effects and they do big damage. Usually in those cases you don't really need the damage reduction piercing, and therefore I can't really like be super hyped about Lethality. I think it is still really good and definitely going to have some characters that will want to use this, but generally speaking, Ruptured Sky and AoE specials are going to be better for different reasons. Ruptured Sky with a fast proc rate, and of course, like even Moonbow is going to be pretty good, honestly. If you have someone with a slaying weapon, they can effectively like fire off 2 specials in one combat sometimes, whereas Lethality is just like 1. So you might have cases where something like Moonbow, Ruptured Sky, and potentially AoE specials are just as good or as competitive as Lethality, which makes it less interesting, but it's still pretty good. Deadeye was a special, just as like a comparison, isn't a special that you always want on all bow units, but it is very good in the right scenarios, and the fact that it does like pierce and double damage is very powerful. So we'll see where this plays out, but I'm not too hopeful on it being like a must-have for all daggers. In effect, like, don't feel baited by it. As for Volke himself, he's kind of whatever.
I am Astrid of House Damia.
I mean, to be fair, he does have that anti-guard, which is going to make him stand out. But IP and Infantry Pulse is like a defense archetype, isn't that good right now. And honestly, between other game modes, I feel like someone like Yuri is just going to be better because of his utility and mobility. So Volke himself isn't going to be that too interesting if you ask me.
I may be of noble birth.
Next up is Astrid here as a green Bocav. Now we do have quite a few green Bocavs in the game, including recently released Sedgar, and that's GHB. So I'm not super hyped about Astrid either. I think Astrid's actually one of my like top favorite in Path of Radiance, probably like top 5 characters. So it is exciting to see Astrid in the game, but
I can fight.
the green Bocav is starting to feel pretty saturated, and I wish it was like red Bocav or something different, which we don't have. But hey, it is what it is. So she comes with Speed Defense Bond 4, which is a whatever, Ruse, which is good with her Rally Plus, kind of coming off as like a sort of fodder unit for sure. But her weapon is definitely different. It's, to put it simply, it's like Annette's Crusher, where whoever she rallies, she gives additional movement plus bonus doubler. So that's not bad. It is an upgrade to Annette. But one little important thing to realize here is that this bow can potentially be, or like Astrid can potentially be very good in a specific type of defense team. And the ones that I'm like really feeling that she'll be really good in is probably one where you combine rallies and odd recovery type of skills. So if you run like a Sarah defense archetype, or you run like an odd recovery defense archetype, potentially with someone like Duma or Catapults, to make sure you're not completely losing to safe defense, I do feel like this is not a bad combination, because then you'll take away a lot of the stuff that would hinder stuff like bonus doubler or the movement, and they wouldn't get panicked or anything like that. So this is a solid type of support weapon where she can definitely act as like a rally into a dance, into shenanigans type of gameplay. And this is even more relevant if you consider that some of the newer like weapon refines like Summer Tana and Halloween Noe and such, or even like Young Tana, have these like really big guidance aerobatics type effects that can really follow up with stuff like this, where they get that extra movement and then they can really set up stuff. Now it doesn't work with other Bocavs or other Cavs that have 2 movement, such as Reinhardt, but the ones that do a lot of like shenanigans with movement, which I just mentioned, Summer Tana, Halloween Noe, for example, will really benefit from this type of weapon and potentially setting up some nice shenanigans. That is a very specific defense archetype, and I don't see everyone using it, but Astrid would definitely lend well to those types of defenses, and I could see her having some usage there. However, honestly, most green Bocavs with instant bow are going to be better, which is kind of sad as an Astrid fan, but it is what it is. Okay, Blue Lance Flyer. I'm not even gonna say anything on this one. It just is what it is. The most exciting thing here is Fury 3, and we don't know if this is 4-star pool yet. She will be demoted after the banner is ended into the 3 and 4-star pool. Fury 3 in the blue pool at a 4-star, 3 to 4-star rarity would be huge. There is technically Jagan, but he does need it at 5-star to get it. So I'm really hoping that Fury 3 is available on Marcia at 4-star, because that would just get more Fury fodder, and Fury fodder is not something that I am opposed to having more of. Marcia's pretty cool though, and she is technically 180. She's going to be 180 base stat total, which means as an arena unit, she will not require B dual flying for, unlike many other blue flyers. That is something that is pretty important, kind of like Sedith from last year's 175, so Marcia's 180. This year is pretty important, relevant, and as a Marcia fan, you could potentially merge her up and use her in arena right away. Keep in mind though, you will likely not accrue 11 copies in a reasonable time. So unless you heavily summon in blue, I'm talking like over 1,000 orbs post banner. So it might be worth it to potentially invest into the banner to pick up some Marcia copies, or look forward to a future banner where you are heavily pulling blue to have any chance of getting those copies. For reference, I didn't pull a Mustafa until literally a year after his banner. I think I just recently got a Luthier, and he's been out for a while. So don't count on you just getting 11 copies and using her in Arena. Make sure you have some sort of plan if you actually want to use her. Comes with what looks like Flowing Lance in the permanent pool, but like, I guess, whatever. It's not a bad lance, I guess, when it comes to non-preference weapons.
Irresponsible skunk.
That is totally a reference to Makalov, who's not in the game. Sag. Pretty Sag. I think the GHB is Bertram, who I kind of forgot existed as well.
Moosespell, God of Flame, has forged me again.
Okay, so we have a colorless Bocaf. We could have like kind of predicted this, actually, to be honest. I mean, if you think about it, OG Fjorm is an infantry that turns into an armor, and from like blue to green. And Laegjarn is a red flyer that goes to a colorless bow calf. Not the weapons. Oh wait, oh wow, they do actually cover the weapons. That is interesting. This was actually completely obvious if you just connected the dots. Blue Lance, OG Fjorm into Green Axe armor. OG Laegjarn Red Sword Flyer into literally the last weapon archetype, last physical weapon archetype, colorless Bocaf. This was 100% predictable, actually, if you just considered the movement and weapon types that they are not covering. Nice little touch, actually. Something I noticed. Somebody probably already knew this, and you're gonna be in like the comments like, "Oh, Akariss, like you, how did you not know this? Like, come on." But I just noticed that now as I was watching this, and that's a nice touch, actually. We'll see if we can compare that into future contrasts, such as like Peony and Triandra, or Lith and Thrasier, if they're like using different type of like, that would already not make sense because like Lith and Thrasier are technically both infantry, but we'll see. It's kind of a nice touch. I like it. Anyways, so Ascended Laegjarn comes with a new rouse skill and obviously a preference bow. Her preference bow is a slaying weapon that has a condition that just requires her to get a bonus effect. Now, mind you, the bonus effect does not require like just strictly rallies. It could be stuff like no panic. Actually, she kind of can like work on herself. Like she can self buff or self activate her weapon if you're activating her rouse. Just anything that's like a sort of visible buff there. Extra movement, for example, from Legendary Sigurd with the boot is also an example bonus. So it's not necessarily just rallies. It can be anything that's like a sort of buff to the unit. And that makes her weapon pretty easy to activate, especially since you can self-activate it. But so her weapon is pretty much new, like not new like new, but like new the weapon, or new. I'm not going to pronounce that right. But anyways, it's pretty much her weapon, and also has a self-null follow-up effect. So her like doubles can't be denied. It's not a full one like the weapon refine of new, but it is pretty good. So she's going to get bonuses up to plus 12 on all her stats, and that self-null follow effect. So that's going to be a lot of stats, and she's going to be pretty strong. Considering she is a new BST, higher gen, she's also going to have a pretty solid stat spread, which we will see in a moment. And of course, I will make a should you pull video as soon as I can, as soon as I can make that work, with more in-depth analysis on Laegjarn here. But I do think this is not bad at all. Like, she's going to be very stat heavy. It is a shame that she doesn't have anything like an impact effect, but that's fine when you consider that her weapon has self-null follow-up, which means that she would make a decent candidate for Windsweep. Problem, of course, is that contrast, Ascended Fjorm has anti-Windsweep, anti-disrupt effects, anti-dazzling, so there is going to be some friction there. Anyways, the new rouse skill is a again, start at the start of the turn, don't be near other friends, and you get attack speed 6 as visible buffs, plus a null panic effect. Now that was previously unique to Ashera, but is now going to be apparently on the level 4 rouse skills, which in my opinion is actually pretty good, like for the rouse skills to get this benefit, because otherwise I don't think they were that good. But the fact that they are makes them pretty solid, so attack speed plus null panic, and that has synergy with her weapon to just activate her weapon completely. And there's not really going to be a way to like stop this from happening. Like null panic is just going to straight up always buff her weapon, and there's like nothing you can do unless she's adjacent to her allies. So it's pretty nice synergy, and I do think she will have some relevance on stuff like AR defense and potentially AR offense and arena should you choose to give her AC dual cav 4, which she will require but can definitely use.
I will burn my regrets.
I really like the fire eye in her eye. It reminds me of like Surtur, but I guess that's the point, right? Speaking of Surtur, he was literally on the map with Hellbindi and Levitane. But yeah, so here is our stat spread. As you can see, I'm pretty sure that those are buffed from the rouse effect, so 6 attack and speed, which puts her at 53 post weapon, add in 40 base HP, 41 speed, 30 defense, and 18 res. Honestly, this is a very similar stat spread to her OG form. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's not bad. I do think that having a higher defense than res stat is favorable if you're going to be on something like AR defense or even arena, where most of the damage output generally nowadays is physical damage. So not too bad. However, I'm still going to be doing a more thorough analysis of her in an upcoming video, so I'm not going to spend too much time on her here, but I do think her stat spread is just what it needs to be. You can always patch the res with something like ARD speed res. That's not going to be a terrible option either. Okay, and as we can see in this little part here, we have Tanith who gets demoted and will show up in just a moment. And it looks like flying green tome Eitri. Now that is an important thing to realize because there is a solid probability here that because Dagger is alone in the upcoming Mythic banner, that I do feel like Eitri is almost confirmed to be there, sharing with Dagger. And that would leave an open spot in either sharing again, like a second Mythic, potentially with Eitri and Dagger, or Plumeria and Sigurd, I feel, in red. Because if you look back a year ago, we had the double Mythic release of Triandra and Freya. So there is a solid probability that it's not just Eitri, it could be someone else. But either way, I feel like this heavily implies that Dagger will share with Eitri, making the Mythics in green already looking pretty good. And I think that pretty much covers the banner. Well, we got Tanith as a sword, also gets demoted right away. Get an Ascended Floret, just one if you end up picking up Ascended Laegjarn. And of course she gets it for free, plus Celestial Stone. So most of the same stuff, nothing too crazy here. But yeah, in terms of the banner, guys, it is... I mean, if you're gonna use your tickets, and you should like probably aim for potentially getting the lucky Ascended Laegjarn pick just for the Floret, because the Floret itself, I wouldn't suggest like sparking for a Floret because she's going to be in the permanent pool. She's going to show up on legendary mythic banners. She's going to show up in the future where you'll likely get one anyways, but I think we'll get these like monthly, like a new Ascended hero, and you will likely see them in the future. So I wouldn't spend over 150 orbs trying to get one of these Florets. They are nice to have, but definitely not worth spending half your orb income as an FTP for. Either way, that's probably where you want to go. Try to get one lucky. If not, it's all good. Anyways, guys, that's my reactions impressions video for this particular banner. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, smash the like button. Sub if you haven't already. If you love me, then there's a Patreon in the description below to support the content I do and the efforts that I give out for you guys. Love you all. see you probably soon for a analysis on Laegjarn plus Churchy Pool. Peace.
It's over.